This episode is for entertainment purposes only. Please speak to your personal healthcare provider before starting any physical, emotional, or mental health care program. The opinions here are simply that, just opinions of the guest and the host, and are simply provided to you to create an alternate conversation for topics concerning personal growth and development. Thanks for watching. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, our special guest is Leah Seneff, who actually is my daughter and the Cognomovement business manager, actually chief operations officer, and a millennial herself. We've invited her to be here today. In fact, a lot of this was her idea because her generation is the generation of being triggered. Her generation is a generation who gave us this term. So some of us may not even know what it means. Some of us may have heard it and been like, what is it? And there's many of you out who are listening who are like, yeah, triggered is important. It's, part of our life, and everyone needs to recognize my triggers and avoid them. But our question for today is being triggered, ruining your life? Is it preventing you from being who you really are? Is it preventing you from your wealth, from your manifestations, and even from that esoteric idea of being in 4 or 5D, the fourth or fifth dimension, actually ascending in consciousness? So, Leah, welcome.
Thank you. I also have another question.
Yeah.
Is it actually taking years off of your life to be
Yeah.
triggered?
Yeah, that's it. Is it taking years off of your life? Is it taking really everything from you? And what is it giving you? That is the question. So you're part of this millennial group. What does being triggered mean to you? What does it mean to your generation? Like, what are people saying when they say I'm triggered?
So I think it's actually millennials and Gen Xers that I see the most people like being triggered, and what it means to, I guess, us or my generation is really that you have upset them by something you said. Like it could be that somebody said something insensitive, and so now you're triggered. Now you are crying or having a panic attack, or you are uh, angry, and you're expecting everybody else to know exactly what your trauma is, and you're expecting them to be gentle about it, and so when you're triggered, it's just somebody hit a nerve, and now you're upset about it. Yeah.
Well, from our generation, my generation, it looks a little bit more than like a person's upset.
Mhm.
It's that a person has inadvertently stepped into a landmine, something that you are traumatized by. You have a trauma around. I'm supposed to know that, even though I can't know it. And then what happens is the triggered person is then has the right to be not only upset, but has the right to demand that I understand their position, that I respect whatever is triggering or traumatizing them. And to me, it looks like a form of just reactivity. It's how the person reacts, and the reaction is often quite intense and large. And these are some of the things, we've seen, on the internet alone, but in our own lives. So is that accurate from your perspective?
Yeah, and I mean, in a world where energies are so tense and high anyway, people are looking for a reason to act like that as well. Like, so, it might be a subconscious thing, not that they're doing it on purpose. Sometimes I think maybe that's happening, but not that they're doing it on purpose, but they have this reaction And it's not they're not saying like, oh, I'm having this reaction, I need to figure out what's wrong and address it. It's, I'm having this reaction, you're responsible for it, not me. And it's kind of a reason to like go on a rampage, because I think right now with how everything is in the world, like it's perfectly okay and actually better if you are in that state, in an angry, like high, emotion state, then calm and actually trying to do something better for yourself, if that makes sense.
Well, so let's give some examples of this. Some of the things that I've seen are like people at work. Often it's baristas at a coffee shop. And a person, maybe my age or maybe much older, says the wrong pronoun for them, for example, says the wrong thing somehow, inadvertently, not necessarily intending to be offensive, just not knowing what the common vernacular is or what to do. And then what you see is this big reactive meltdown, screaming and yelling, calling names, sometimes actually hitting people, laying hands on people. You've seen a young person actually push or punch an elderly person, injuring them because of the words that they said. Where in our generation, you were an employee, you have decorum, right? You keep it together. You don't like what they say. Even correcting that person would have been out of line as an employee. The customer's always right, right? So
Mhm.
it's almost like a manners thing because it's not that what someone would have said to you wouldn't have bothered you. It just wasn't appropriate to have a flip out about it. So, in your opinion, how did that change? How did it become appropriate to have these really big reactions publicly that, from my perspective, would be way out of line for, the injury that was caused by the words, the insult to the reaction that's given?
I think it's a lot of things, and I think this is a pretty controversial topic, but that's okay. um, but it's a lot of things. So something shifted, and I don't know if it happened like pre pandy or
Mm-hmm.
not. It seems like it kind of happened around that time where we stopped really caring about other people, and it started being about the trauma Olympics. And we started identifying with our trauma instead of who we are, what our personality is. Our personality became our trauma. And my trauma is way worse than yours. I don't even care what it is. It's way worse than yours. So you can't say anything that's going to make me flip out. And then societally, it became okay to flip out in public. Like it just became this thing where if you're flipping out for the right reasons, then it's okay. And everybody else is responsible for your emotions. And this isn't a conversation about victim blaming at all. You have every right to feel the way that you do about things that have happened in your life, but you really don't have a right to push that on anybody else. And I think people don't understand that is your emotions are your responsibility. And instead, and I think also this is one of those things where it's so much easier to blame somebody else for your problems. Everybody knows that. And so instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm having this reaction and this is a really big reaction for me, like I need to figure out what's wrong. To I need to do something about this for myself so that I don't keep having this. And my whole thing about this topic, it came from one of your videos that you're talking about internal framework. And the whole idea is that it's literally sucking the energy out of you, and it's not doing anything good for yourself, for the other people you're talking to. It's kicking you out of your own life, and I just I don't know when it started, but it seems like recently. And it's a whole competition to see like, what's wrong with me is way more than what's wrong with you. And you need to be careful about what you say. And I think the other thing is like, it's, it can never ever be that way because, there might be somebody who doesn't use your pronouns right. And whether you believe that using pronouns or not using pronouns is a thing, the proper way to address that is, oh, actually, it's they or whatever. Like not screaming and throwing a fit. There's a way to address it where somebody would be willing to respectfully say apologize and actually change what they're saying instead of flipping out, assaulting people. It's just never the way that you do things. And there are other things where it's like somebody could say, I ate spaghetti last night. And that could trigger you because when you were 4, you were eating spaghetti. And then your mom got a call that a family member died. And so now you have trauma over spaghetti. Nobody is going to know that. It's literally different for everybody. So it's really not appropriate to be making it somebody else's responsibility to not trigger you.
Yeah, and it's interesting about, talking about the millennials, and it seems like it started there, but it has bled into every generation. Now there are people that have this focus on their own personal opinions and feelings. And it is now acceptable in some ways to let those opinions and feelings be the responsibility of everyone else around you. So our question really is it hurting you? Is this idea hurting each and every person who is utilizing it? I'm triggered. I can be triggered. I can have a flip out, a meltdown, a crash over words that have been said. On the internet now, there are all kinds of words you cannot say, words in the English language to describe things that trigger people. Like we're avoiding our own language because people are essentially reactive. So let's talk for a second about what really we're talking about, what it really is. It's actually I've said it 1,000 times already, reactivity, but it's your nervous system, the part of your body that takes in all the information, calculates whether it's a threat or not, and then creates a reaction. A reaction can be based on your adrenal system, your adrenaline, your adrenals, your limbic system reacting and creating so much adrenaline that you need to fight, you need to run, you need to hide, you need to scream and yell or throw a tantrum, hit someone, right? So it's this taking in of information and then reacting to it. But the issue is that when you're constantly ready to be triggered, you're in fight or flight all the time. And that has a massive, massive energy cost to the body. It literally will drain your battery. It drains away the blood and the oxygen and the energy to your frontal lobes, to your brain, to the part that actually can make good decisions, to the part that would be like, okay, old man or old lady, I don't like the words you just said to me, but I realize you're a different generation. You don't know me. I don't know you. And maybe I'll just go about my business. Or maybe I will say, well, excuse me, actually, this is my name, or this is how you can refer to me, in a calm way that actually creates a resourceful conversation. Because a reactive, that big reactivity is really intended to keep you safe from a big threat, like a lion on your butt. But a person in front of you who is saying the wrong thing to you they're not a lion. They are not going to kill you. Maybe it hurt your feelings. That's true. But the fight part doesn't actually help you with your life, doesn't help you keep your job, doesn't help you keep your friends. It really doesn't help people respect you. But the conversation, a calm conversation, educating the person might strike up even a friendship. It might be something that helps people understand your perspective. But this I'm triggered and it's your responsibility to react and help me solve my problem. You have to agree with me, actually doesn't open conversation. It stops it dead in its track. So it would be my opinion that there's about 1,000 ways that this triggered society now is really, really hurting people.
Yeah, and I also think it's on purpose. It's society's way, another way that society is wanting us to be 6 to 8 feet apart from each other. If you are a reactive person, people naturally will try to get away from you. They're not going to come closer to you. And it's making people forget how to actually communicate effectively with each other. And if people start communicating, if people start actually talking to each other, we understand a lot more about each other, and we actually realize that we agree on a lot more things, and we actually are able to make connection. You can't make connections, or it's really hard to make connections in fight or flight. And society creating all of this media, all of these things to keep us in fight or flight. So not only are we allowing ourselves to kind of be narcissistic in a way, everything's about us all of a sudden and not anybody else. Even people who are sticking up for other people, it's about them feeling better about themselves, not really about the person, because we're not communicating. We're not actually talking and seeing how we can change things in the world. We are on high alert. We're in fight or flight. We're throwing a fit, and we're making people want to back away from us. And we will never have relationships in that way. And you can see when, there are people who are super sensitive, and that's okay. But it is literally taking away everything from you when you are, it's taking away everything. You're sucking the life out of you. And I just said this to my husband this morning, that stress doesn't help anything. We all know that stress can cause, illness. It can cause disease. Like there's scientific studies about that. And when something bad happens, it's better to be calm so that you can make a better decision than being stressed and making a desperate decision. And so in fight or flight, when we're throwing all these fits, we're making desperate decisions. And it's throwing these tantrums or being having a panic attack or having anxiety or being really, really in that heightened state. It's addictive. And your nervous system decides that that's what feels the best. It feels better to do that than to try and have conversation.
Yeah. So when we come back from our break, we will actually talk about how does stress create illness in the body? How does it actually create disease? Because we've heard it, but what's the mechanism? Why does it happen? And how is this popular idea of being triggered all the time, how does it play into that illness? So let's take our first break and let's hear from our good sponsors. Okay, and we're back. We are here with Leah Seneff, and we are talking about this modern day idea of being triggered. And there's something that actually kind of annoys me in our industry. Now, everything's about trauma informed. And I looked it up. I'm like, what in the world are they talking about? And the bottom line is, and it's quite simple, it's not even complicated at all. It's the idea that you go into every interaction knowing that the person you're dealing with has trauma and may have a meltdown around it, might have a flip out, might not be able to control their own reactions. So, as professionals, we're going into this expecting that and knowing that's possible. And then, having to have ways to work around it. So this bothers me so much because what it does is it puts a person's trauma front and center. That's who they are. And I'm expected to only see that trauma, which to me feels very, very surface level. I want to be able to see people as the whole human that they are, and that a trauma is an experience they had at one point in time. It really is not more than that. What makes it more is that the body will go into this reactive state around it. And for some people, like a real panic attack is the body going into a bit of shock. It's when you think about shock, you see someone whose body looks stunned. They start to sweat, they start to get pale. Oftentimes they can pass out. And in these places, the heart is racing. Their breath gets short. So the body literally thinks it is in a great enough peril that it could die. And people do die from shock. So a true panic attack has that effect on the body, which is really not good for the body at all. And it consumes so much energy, and the body becomes consumed with trying to keep itself alive. That's what all these functions are about, as though a person were being literally attacked and murdered by something, right? But panic attacks can happen really anytime. And those, in that case, it really is a physical reaction that most of the time a person doesn't have control over. They don't believe they do anyway, unless they have the right skills. So that is, raising cortisol levels, which can be toxic to the body over time. So it's a hormone given off by your adrenals, comes along with adrenaline, that is really meant to be burnt off by fight or flight, by running or fighting or expending the energy, right? But over time, when that builds up, it starts to create massive inflammation in the body. And when you're in a constant state of a bit of panic, which this idea of being triggered every minute of every day, no matter what anybody says, actually puts the body in the state of fight or flight all the time and reroutes your horsepower, your energy. So in fight or flight, the body will not heal. It can't. It's not intended to. It's intended to get you out of the way of the tiger on your butt, right? The lion on your butt. All that it's doing, all your body's focused on, is putting energy into your muscles, your heart, and your lungs, and your survival centers in your brain, not your thinking centers, not your prefrontal cortex that has ideas and inspiration and wisdom and grace and all of that, right? So this is why being triggered all the time is actually killing people. It's that it creates such a state of constant inflammation without any time for the energy to be sent to the body to heal. And the body heals in a state of calm, in a state of rest. The prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain that has wisdom and grace and peace and all of that, ideas and inspiration, that only gets turned on when we're not in fight or flight. That's why it is a state that is so detrimental to health. And over time, essentially, inflammation caused by this fight or flight state creates disease. That is why you've always heard stress kills. And it does. But I think what I think would be better for people to understand it, that, it's not just that it's making you sick, but it is robbing you of everything. I don't see an upside in any way to the state of being triggered all the time, looking for triggers, because it will rob you of your relationships. You really cannot be in kind, loving, gracious, fulfilling relationships and be in a state of fight or flight constantly. you cannot be in a state of creativity and growth and exuberance when you are in fight or flight. The two don't go together. You cannot be in deep, generative conversation when you are in fight or flight. The body won't do that. The brain won't do that. It's just too focused on getting out of the way of the tiger. And I think the biggest thing is that people on this podcast, you can't manifest in that state. Let me take that back. You do manifest in that state, but it is none of the things that you want, not any of them.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate one of the things that you said about being triggered and being in fight or flight is that it's not just the flip out, it's not just the state of being triggered, like when you're triggered and the anxiety and the panic attack and all that stuff. It's not just that, it's literally the whole day, because you're literally tensing against it all day and you're looking for it. You're looking for being triggered in that conversation. You know something's going to happen, so you're waiting for it. So you're in fight or flight before, during, and after, and it doesn't go away if you're not actively working to calm your nervous system, if you don't resolve that issue that you have inside of yourself. And I want to say that this episode is not, what we're talking about is not just dogging on people who get triggered. A lot of us have had panic attacks before. We know what it's like, but, and it's not dogging on you. It's not victim blaming. What it is a real concern for you, and actually telling you that there's something different. You don't have to live that way. And it's better if you don't.
Well, that's true. And, there are moments in time where being triggered, and there's why the body has this function, makes sense. I mean, everybody has that moment where enough is enough. And, you have a little flip out moment, right? And it can blow up a relationship or, really get you out of a bad situation that you do need to fight your way out of. I think the point is that we're in now triggered culture where it's making it a positive thing to be in this state all the time. And I think that's the really good point, is that it's bad for people. It is not bad for our society. It's not bringing people together. It's not teaching us more. It's not helping us be better as people. And here's the big reason, because it's force. It's in that place of force. There is no power, true, sustainable, forward-moving, generative power in this idea of triggered is the state I should be in, and it's how I should live my life, to force you to change your opinions or act different around me. It just actually doesn't add up.
It also makes it impossible to know when when your body is actually telling you that there's a real problem. Like, so you were saying, like, it sometimes your body has this function on purpose, and like it could get you out of a bad situation. It could blow up a relationship, but it's like telling you it's finally time to leave. You cannot be in this relationship anymore. It's bad. But when you're constantly in it, it's impossible to know whether your body is telling you this is a real threat and you need to leave, or, this is just another Tuesday where I'm triggered again,
Well, you said something that is really poignant, and that is that being triggered is addictive. And that is true. And here's the reason, and it's very physiological. There's a lot of energy in it, right? The adrenaline moves, you're saying this, you're acting out that, your heart's pumping, right? Feels big. And it feels like doing something. It feels like you're taking action, right? Except for that it's action in force, which hits a brick wall and then ends. There's no power really in it. But when you're constantly triggered, if you're triggered 4 or 5 times a day, and then you're talking with your friends about being triggered, and then you're watching videos about being triggered, and then you watch things or listen to things that trigger you intentionally so you can fight back, It feels like productivity. It feels like doing something, but it is not. There's no power in it. There's no generation in it. It doesn't create more, better, good for you. It literally keeps you distracted from the life that you're meant to live. I think that's the most important thing. And if I had to turn on my conspiracy brain, which isn't all the time, that makes me wonder, is this some sort of a psyop that is keeping our younger people, especially, but even some of the older ones, from actually looking how to create real and lasting change, the kind we all want, the kind that takes our society forward and has us working really together, because the human race, when it works together, creates incredible things. When we really, truly understand each other, we are powerful. When we're in a place of acceptance, I can accept you that you're different than me. I can accept that you have different ideas than me that I don't agree with. But I see you as a whole human who really does want good for the world. That's acceptance. In that place, we have real power. We find places that we can agree to create more. So, what is this about? Why is this so prevalent? And is it intentional? And if so, then it's on each one of us to stop and recognize that and realize, where does our power really lie in our lives? And I would argue it is not in being triggered. This wave of things has pushed things in a direction, but I don't know if anybody could agree that it's a better direction, that we have more connection, that we are healthier, that we are wiser, that we have better relationships, that we're manifesting the life of our dreams. I personally do not see this in this environment.
Yeah, and I think this is not going to hit the ears of the people who, are already arguing with us in their brains while they're listening. If the people are going to be triggered hearing the things that we are saying right now. And I know there are going to be people who just can't hear it. Like, they just can't, because this is the way they want to live their life. But for the people that are actually understanding what we're saying, like, this is for you. If you are a person who doesn't want to continue living life this way, if you know that there is so much more, there's so much more connection, there's so much more to your life and your manifesting abilities than the state that you are in right now, you are going to leave those other people behind in a standstill. And in 10 years, you're going to be a completely different person, the person you were actually meant to be, the person who, when you meet somebody, they figure out who you are based on your personality, and you don't immediately introduce yourself as the trauma you've been through. But that's something that was in the past, and maybe it comes up or maybe it doesn't, but it's not your personality. The other people in 10 years are going to be stuck in the same life that they're in, not able to move forward and not understanding why.
Yeah, this is my concern about this, is that because it feels like doing something, because it feels like forward moving energy, that this whole generation is going to look back in 10 years and be like, what did I do? I spent all my time fighting against something or fighting for my own injuries, that I didn't create the life I want. And I think that's the shift that has to be made, to understand that there is not generative power in that. The generative power is looking at who you really are as a human, the amazing human you came to be, and the ways that you can actually generate and create something bigger, better, more, not just for yourself, but for the planet. I think we have to look at it that way. So let's take our next break and hear from our good sponsors. And when we come back, we'll talk about what is the way out. How do you get out of the cycle of being triggered? How do you start to shift your mind and your body, more importantly, out of that state? We're back and we're here with Leah Seneff. We're talking about this triggered nation. We're talking about how being triggered has become the most important part of some people's lives and how it might be killing you, actually. And at a very minimum, it is robbing you from the life that you could have that really creates change on the planet. So, what are some ways that a person, if they're hearing this and they're like, okay, I truly, genuinely have a lot of trauma in my life. How do you expect me not to be angry about that every minute? How do you expect me not to be blaming people every minute? How do you expect me not to have shame about it every minute because it's the truth?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the person who's going to explain it in layman's terms, and then Liz is actually going to explain it better. But there is a way, and it's not, I'm sure people that have listened to us a lot, and listened to Liz and Bill a lot have heard that it's not about willpower, it's not about mindset, but it really isn't. And we're probably going to repeat that until the cows come home and until we beat it into your skull. Because because there's no amount of talking about it that is going to make it better for you. It's just going to continue to make you relive it over and over again. There's no amount of coping skills that are going to make that go away for you or make it just be a book on the shelf from your past and not something that is still affecting you right this second. Your trauma and your feelings are absolutely valid and you're allowed to have them. But when they start affecting your present and your future, it's when it's time to actually do something about it and calm your nervous system to tell your body that it's not happening right now. It happened back then, but it's not happening right now. It's not, and that you don't have to allow it to continue to ruin your life for the rest of your years. You don't have to waste 10 more years talking to a professional about it and continuing to relive it for 10 more years. It's about calming your nervous system. It's about living in a state of neutrality in the present. And it's like I said, it's not about victim blaming. It's literally just about allowing you to move forward in your life and not allowing that thing to control you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it really is about how you see you. So the first step is awareness. How many hours of the day are you spending talking about, focusing about, or feeling about any particular trauma in your life? If it's more than 5 minutes in any given day or every day, it's probably too much. The second awareness is, do you see your trauma as who you are as a human? When you become aware, okay, that thing happened to me. It did, and it sucked real bad. But it is not me. That's that first awareness that I am a whole being, a whole human, an amazing, amazing being that came here to do something. And it is not marinate in trauma. If you understand that, if you make that one shift, it can help you start looking for what else is possible in your life. So, where it all happens is in your nervous system, because your nervous system is the thing that has now been trained. You've created an internal framework for whatever reason of trauma rules my life. Whatever happened to me in my past is the most important thing and dictates who I am right now. Untrue. I'm going to say patently untrue. It may feel that way in the moment, but it is not true. If you can train your nervous system and reconstruct your internal framework to a framework that is like, I actually, maybe I'm an artist, maybe I'm a singer, maybe I'm a poet, maybe I am a person who has great ideas, maybe I'm a person who's a great gardener, maybe I'm a person who likes to actually help people. Start to reframe, who are you really if you didn't have your trauma? And this, if it didn't run your life, is the point. Not that if you didn't have it, not if it didn't happen to you, but if it didn't run your life, who would you be? I think this is the big question that in Cognomovement we're asking all the time, and challenging people to ask themselves, if I didn't feel this way, what would be possible in my life? And so thousands of people, tens of thousands of people around the planet have discovered that, oh, my trigger is just a sensation that my body gets. And it's reminding me of something that happened in the past. It's not now. And you can find a way to get your body to a neutral state where then you are like, nah, I don't think so. No, thank you. Not today.
Well, what if somebody says to you, but Liz, you don't understand. I went through this horrific trauma and it's really bad. And you're just telling me that I shouldn't have it. You're just telling me I should forget about it. What if somebody says that to you? What do you tell people when they're like, but Liz, you don't understand. I have this terrible trauma and it is who I am.
Well, what I would say is every human has a choice. And in my practice and in all of our events, Cognitive Conscious, I've heard some of the most horrific things that have happened to people that no one could imagine. No one should even want to imagine. And my answer is always the same. You have a choice. You can spend your time and your life reliving it as though it's now, or you can retrain your body, and it is the body that informs the brain, to focus on something else, to have it relegated to a place in the past. And I'm not saying, oh, here's a magic wand, just forget it. What I'm talking about is heading straight into it, into the feeling that creates that cascade of hormones and feelings and thoughts, and rerouting your nervous system around it so that the system's like, oh, yeah, I remember that's in the past. And right now, in this moment, I'm perfectly safe. And I have the ability to now plan for my future where I'm not only safe, I'm fantastic. I'm doing great. I'm doing great things on the planet. So, our first book is called Suffering is Optional. And that's why it's not about tough love. It's not get over it at all. It's go through it. It's have the awareness of where that is in space and time. Teach your nervous system that that is where it belongs. We're aware of it. It did happen. It was an experience. It may have shaped us, but it isn't exactly who I am now. Now I'm going to choose who I am with that in my past, not in my present every minute of every day, poisoning my body, my mind, and my life.
Well, and the best thing about this is that, like Liz said, we're not telling you forget about it. This isn't a boot camp where we're like, no, you don't get to have that anymore.
No.
When you do this work, you can hold on to that trauma. You can hold on to that feeling, the argument that you should be holding on to it for as long as you want to during your session. And just maybe see what happens at the end of the session. So this isn't a modality where we give you coping skills, where we, in session, we're like, focus on the positive thing, focus
No.
on the opposite thing. Like Liz said, you're going straight through it, you're going at it, and you are allowed to feel the way that you feel. You are allowed to be triggered during that time. And you might be surprised what happens when you're done with the session.
Well, what you're really doing, and what Leah's talking about, if you don't know what she's talking about, is the modality called Cognomovement, which has been created by myself and Bill McKenna. And what it does is it retrains the nervous system, it retrains the body for what to focus on. And what it does, what I love about it, is it creates the ability for you to choose what you focus on. So, this fight or flight system actually takes us out of choice. It's a reaction, it's reactivity that immediately tells the brain we have trouble, we have drama, we need to fight, we need to run, we need to hide, we need to get bigger than, we need to get smaller than. And it's all consuming. So it fools us into believing that that's who we really are. And like I said before, it feels important, feels like in the moment we need to do something. And, if there's a lion on your butt, if somebody's chasing you, trying to kill you, if you need to get your kid out of the way of a bus or yourself, you need it. It's an important part. What happens is that the body does get addicted to it and it stops going into the creative generative state where you heal, where you think, where you love, where you create. So we devised a way to teach the body, the nervous system at its core, how to shift out of fight or flight and into a true generative state. And here's the thing I want people to hear. The things that you think about in this generative state will astound you. What the world looks like when your body is not focused on trauma and being triggered, it's like a whole new place. Like doom and gloom may be filling your life right now, and you may think the world is burning down. But when you are not in fight or flight, you personally, your internal framework is able to get into full neutrality, peace, acceptance, bliss, joy, love, peace. The world that you see is seen through that lens and becomes a better place. You start to attract people that match that feeling in your body. In the state of being triggered, you're attracting people who are also triggered. Here's another tip I have. Look around at the people in your life. Take a look around. And what do they want to talk about? Are they also talking about being triggered? Are they also talking about being their drama and their trauma and, how things are unfair? And look at where they are in their life. Are they thriving? Are they generating and creating the life of their dreams? And if not, you realize you have a problem. In that moment, you're like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is who I'm attracting. The cool thing is that when you change yourself, you do lift everyone around you. You really do. You actually can create almost a bit of a barometer for the rest of the group. If you're at peace and they're at war, maybe those friends will fade away. Maybe that group will fade away. Or maybe they'll be like, oh, that looks good. Let me have a slice of that. And you can create change for everyone around you. I keep saying the word generative, and what I mean is creative. It creates more.
Yeah. And this is kind of a fun thing because there's this really big trend about going no contact with people and kind of kicking people out of your life. And part of that, the swinging of the pendulum, is great because you're learning to have boundaries. But when you are doing this work, like Liz said, the people that are supposed to be in your life that are really good for you, they stick around, and the other people just kind of fade away. You no longer have to kind of force no contact. You end up just being able to let it happen on its own, if that makes sense. So it's like a purge without the force, like you start elevating how you live your life and the conversations start changing and the people start changing, and that's either for the better or they just kind of don't fit anymore, and it's easy.
Yeah. The other thing that happens is you might become aware that you are the repelling force. when you are in fight or flight all the time and you are fighting nonstop internally in this internal framework, everyone around you feels it.
Mhm.
Everyone around you. We were at an event. Our Cogno Conscious event is our big event every year in which we actually address each of these levels of being triggered, each of the levels of force, from shame to guilt, blame, anger, fear, pride, even up to courage is actually still in the level of force a bit. So we address each of these things and how your body is handling them, because it isn't your logical mind. It is your body. It is this internal framework. So we clear those for 5 full days. We clear those out of your body, help your body reset to neutral on each of those subjects, not the ideas of them, but your body's reactivity to them. That's the important part. It's your body's reactivity. So every year, I've got at the anger part, we've got someone who says, shouldn't I be angry that they're destroying the planet? Destroying the planet, or something about some war, something about some social issue, or some huge trauma. What are you saying that I shouldn't be angry about this? And I always smile and say, absolutely, be as angry as you want to. Have it be as angry as you want to. But let me ask you a question. Is your anger creating change? Is your personal fury actually helping the planet heal? Changing that trauma that happened in your life, changing the people that did that thing. Is it generating something better for you in your life? And I always get kind of a blank stare for a minute because nobody's ever challenged it in that way. Is your feeling actually resourceful? Is your anger punishing someone that did something wrong to you, even if they're long dead? The answer is always no. So my next question is, would you actually like to create change around this thing, this topic? Would you like it to be better, to be more, to do some good? And then they realize in that moment that they do have a choice. They can be as angry as they want to be, or they can be in a place to create change around it. Which do you choose? And there is not a right answer. It's about what's right for you. But the people that come to these seminars are always at that place, a high enough level, at least being curious about what really could change in their lives. And most people actually choose to dig in and change the reference point that their body has around any subject. And when it does, it releases them to be who they really are, but their whole life morphs almost instantly around them. Like they get a call from that person they've had trouble with. They create an idea that changes everything in their life. A new relationship walks in, an old relationship is repaired. It is like whiplash, how fast the world changes around you when you let go of one of these giant emotional triggering patterns.
Yeah. And I love a lot of things about this event, but the best thing is that because it's not a lecture, because we're not telling you what to do and then you go home and then you don't do it. We're actually making you, we're actually doing it there. We're doing the work there. We're actually showing you how to do it, and you are doing it. That, people come in every single day, each day of the event. It's a 5-day event. Somebody comes in and is like, I got a phone call from somebody that I have not heard from in forever, and that has really hurt me, and they apologized.
Yeah.
Like, or I haven't been able to sell my house for 10 years and I just got an offer last night. Or, like every single day, somebody is making that change right then in the middle of the event instead of waiting after. And then even after, there's all kinds of change. But that is probably the coolest thing about this event, is that because we're not lecturing you. We're actually taking you through it, and you are doing the work. You're doing the work. You get the changes already in the middle of it.
It's true. And we've even had someone get a call from the great beyond, which is
That's
true. I
true.
know that sounds nuts, and that's a story for another day. We've told it before, but
Mm.
the most miraculous things happen when a person is able to change that internal reference so radically that the world changes around them. So we've actually run out of time for this episode. I know this was kind of a different episode, but it was fun. I think it's a really good thing to start to challenge some of these ideas that have been foisted upon us that really are not serving us. And from our perspective, Cognomovement is the way out. And we want to invite anybody who's hearing this who's like, dang, I just had a revelation. I want to change this, to come to our Cogno Conscious event in 2025 in sunny San Diego, California. Visit the cognomovement.com site, go to our events, and you can find out more about this event and register to attend. So thanks for being here, Leah. This was fun.
Thank you for having me. And if you want an easier way to get there, just go to cognomovement.com/cognoconscious. You'll learn all about it. And if you have any questions, you can email us at info@cognomovement.com.
All right. Until next time, everybody, be safe and be well.